So today is the fourth webinar, and its title is Walk the Talk of Sustainability. I have chosen this title because we are going to speak of behavior, that is to say, of how to live according a low-carbon lifestyle, as suggested by the Low Carbon Lifestyles Wheel, which is that document that I've shared with you in advance and that you see here. Its main contributors are Futerra, a creative agency, B-Works, which is a group of researchers about behavior, and the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, which is indeed a co-founder of the Inner Development Goals Foundation. The subtitle is very easy to remember because it comes with the 3 B's of behaviors, barriers, and benefits. So what these contributors have done is they have read and condensed the IPCC 2022 report, which is very long, more than 3,000 pages long, and they have condensed it into very short recommendations revolving around the 3 B's that we have seen right now: behavior, barrier, and benefit. About benefits, I will speak of the emotional and social benefits of being able to live with a low carbon lifestyle later on. And in fact, I will give my personal story starting 2015 as an instance in favor of their view. So the view that if you live with a low carbon lifestyle, you get or can get the tremendous social and emotional benefits. But what they have also done before getting to that end point is to reframe a problem. The problem that I call the problem of people talking without walking sustainability in the literature goes under the name of the value action gap. See here how they have pictured the gap. And they say this is a myth. What we should do is rather talk about a barrier, a values action barrier, because there are hundreds of ways people who intend to act for sustainability are then not in a position to do it. And they have put together all the difficulties into this matrix with 12 barriers, 12 main barriers that have to be overcome in acting for sustainability. Now, I am a philosopher, and I must say that although I see this, for example, agency, it is certainly a core problem in acting for sustainability. Can I make a difference if I become vegetarian, or if I plant trees, or if I do my permaculture? Can I really make a difference with such a small step? That is certainly a problem. Other things I see it less. Shame. I'm not sure. My proposal, and this is where I would like to be on screen again. I see 2 main barriers. One is economy. I mean, sustainability has a cost, and not many people or everyone can afford it. And the second barrier that I see, it's a deficit in the ability to recognize truth. A deficit in the ability to recognize truth can be seen as a meta barrier, as if when we have a mountain to overcome, and that prevents us from looking at any other path ahead. But it can also be seen as a gap, that is to say, a chasm to be bridged by aligning our needs with the needs of our species, and the needs of our species with the needs of life to go on a planetary scale, which is indeed what we are trying to do in this Miniatures of Evolution course. We live in a post-truth era, and most people have a problem in recognizing truth because we think, well, it comes from different directions. And the fact that it comes from different directions is confusing. Therefore, truth does not exist. Or another bias against the ability to recognize truth is that it takes time. Truth does not stay alone, and it needs time to reveal itself, which is the Greek word for truth is Aletheia, is without veil. So it has to uncover for you, and it's not immediate. So what I would like to do with you is to propose my storytelling, my personal storytelling, as a storytelling of several moments of truth that Aletheia, and it's in fact my daughter's name. It's Aletheia. So here is I am, and I think some of you have already seen this. I am here in 2015. This is the rally before the COP agreement in Paris about the 1.5 degrees Celsius of wanting to keep that as a benchmark. And I made for myself this banner that says www.focusing.org, and it says climate change, personal change, societal change. Well, I was alone with this banner, and I met someone from the focusing community who told me, "Oh, come on, what has focusing to do with climate change? They have nothing to do." So at the end of the day, I was really I was feeling that my action step that was for me very important was really not recognized, but at the same time I started to think, why did I do that as a focuser rather than as a climate activist? So there was a felt sense of something that I did that for me was very valuable, but that it did not have any immediate consequence. And at that moment, it wasn't even clear for myself. Then I started to read a process model, which all of you know, it's a very difficult test. And I was struck by this, we have a plant body, that Chandlin says. And you have seen it repeated in a glimpse on a process model in the short video that I've shown last time. So we have a plant body came to me as on the forefront. It wasn't any longer background, and that in 2020 during COVID pandemic, that's when I started to do my home composting with worms. And at that point, it was the only thing I could do because I wasn't able to walk outside to go to my favorite park. I wasn't able to be in nature, but I knew that composting with worms would lead to other action steps. And so you see me here in 2022, I am doing a workshop to teach people how to do composting with worms and how to build their own small house for the worms, for the composting. And here are the plants that I am planting mostly on public soil, so on public grounds. Now I want to bring it to this moment of truth. Now, when I look backward at what I did in 2015, I can say I can use the retroactive woes that is so important in Gendlin's philosophy, and I can say, I see now what that meant. Because the felt sense that was there in 2015 was really not complete, and it needed a lot of other moments of truth to grow and to become a narrative with some linear features, but of course a lot of the meaning and a lot of the truth is only found, as Gendlin says, retrospectively. I didn't know in 2015 that all of this was implied. And I really had to go through a lot of work on myself during the pandemic and later on also in order to put all of this together. Let me, here you see me in a workshop to teach people how to use 2 fruit boxes to make a balcony composter, and also teach how to place then the earthworms, Aisenia fetida, inside and feed them. As you can see, there are many children. I made the house for the earthworms myself because I didn't want to buy one. I wanted to make this as a small project of a circular economy. So I built it myself. And later on, I found that some of the features that I been using really didn't last long. For example, I was using a cloth that, but the worms eat cotton, eat a t-shirt if you put it on the bottom of this fruit basket that I was using. So some things were not perfect, but some really motivated me to go on. And yeah, you see here, this is the cloth. I'm not happy with that. And the next ones that I will build will have a mosquito net, because that makes things easier. And after you put the cloth, you have to prepare a bed with leaves and then some soil, and then you put the, you see me here putting the autumn leaves on the bottom.
Sono belle. Non sono molto felici di stare alla luce, perché sono molto molto timidi e vogliono nascondersi sotto terra. Sono bellissimi. Questo, se poi decidete di fare la cassetta, io ve lo procuro, ve lo trovo, cioè prendete il mio starter.
So, and I try to do this with families and children that I can learn. How do I use my compost once it is ready? Well, I use it to fertilize the soil of small oak trees that I plant myself on public grounds. Or the two that you see here are ready to be planted in November of this year, in November 2024. Why do I do that? For me, it is a way of living, the way that I think sustainability in the first person. But it has to do also with another moment of truth, not very positive, that I had when I started to calculate my actual carbon footprint. And the moment of truth has to do with my travels to the US. I have a daughter in the US, and either I travel or she travels every year to visit me. This is a calculator that is provided free from carbonfootprint.com. You have to have the electricity bill and natural gas bill. So here it is mine. This is electricity, and this is natural gas in kilowatt hours. I had to have a conversion here, and if you're interested, I can show you how it is done. Now, there are in my household, there are 3 people because I'm actually living alone, but I have rented a part of this. So this is for the heating, it's about 1 ton here. Then I go to flights, which it's a return trip from Fiumicino to Washington, D.C. in economy class. I include the radiative forcing because when you travel long distance, you fly closer to the sun. And it gets to be about 2,000, 2 tons, so 1.94 metric tons with this. Then I go to car, and I have here 6,000. It's not much, but I use the car. I used to go with the bike, but I cannot do it anymore now. So I have 6,000 with a car, and it's a Fiat Panda, but it's 7 of LPG. Motorbike, I don't have any. Bus and rail, I basically don't use public transportation. I go by car or on foot. And then I go to what they call a secondary. And here now, I do eat fish, so I am a fish eater. And I add this per year because here it's a little bit of a problem, of a moral problem for me, because I am actually buying most of my food from a local co-op. So this one is 2,400 euros. It's only what I buy from the supermarket or for meat, but the other food I did not. Now, pharmaceutical is a big expense for me, and telephone is this one. Recreation and culture, I do go to a gym, and I don't have other, but this is not extremely good in terms of digital. So I get another ton. And let's see my results. This is the final result. And it's very important because it's split into my actual footprint, which is 4.84 metric tons. The average footprint for the Italian people is 5.38 metric tons, and the world average, which is 4.79 metric tons. I have to reflect a little bit here and invite all of you to reflect with me what we want to do in terms of reducing and offsetting our footprints. Because my initial pledge was to be 10% lower than my country average. And as it is now, even if I've been probably a little bit too generous with myself in the last calculation, I am already 10% lower than the country average for Italy. But if my pledge is to be 10% lower of the world average, then I have to work more and reduce more. And because what I'm actually trying to do is to get rid, not immediately, but 5 years from now, of the 2 tons of my travels to the US. And I'm able to do that by planting trees. If my project succeeds, I will be able to have a footprint of about a little bit less than 3 metric tons per year, which is really, which makes me feel good. It makes me feel good about myself as a climate activist and a sustainability expert. And it makes me feel good about the future for my daughter, or if I have granddaughters or grandsons, because by planting trees, I will not be able to reduce only my footprint as long as I am alive, but I will leave living beings that will keep reducing the carbon footprint of the people I love and I am now connected to. And it is a very strong emotional benefit to be congruent.
Yeah, it's one of the Carl Rogers, I say this for Anita, Carl Rogers says empathy, acceptance, and the most important condition is congruence.
Mm.
For Carl Rogers, and Gendlin put that word in the Carl Rogers theory.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so, what reason why the feeling of truth is good, makes you feel good? It is congruence.
What is important for me on all this talk and you sharing is this moment of truth, this aletheia. I mean, there's no action if we don't feel the thing happening. So, and I think that is a problem when we are trying to do something and the people doesn't feel the crisis. So the first class we talked with you, Emanuela, was feeling the crisis, and I wonder how to bring this to the people as a first step. Not talking about crisis, talking about what we feel. I just come back from the school. They've been talking about renewal sources, and the problem with that is, okay, electric cars, but the problem is the lithium source, the lithium battery.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the students has that problem. I mean, this is a good idea, but also has damage to our planet. So, and they come with a graphic of this situation. There's a fabric doing ecological cars, electric cars, and all the smoke that coming from that fabric or manufacturing, I don't know the word, the thing that builds the cars, causes a dark smoke, and somebody besides that fabric is breathing all that smoke. And there's a beautiful new car coming out from the. So all that graphic scene, I asked them to paint, to draw on a paper, and we talk about our feelings around that. I mean, I ask explicitly, not what you think, what you feel with this happening.
That's thank you. I think it's a key point to have a felt sense. Now, as I was saying, a felt sense is something complete, and you can complete it with words or actions. But the idea of a first action step that then we'll call other action steps, and that will make your personal travel in life more linear and more coherent, has to do having a good start, a good start in feeling to have an emotional benefit from what you are doing, even if it's vague, not complete, and not very clear. When I went in 2015 alone with that banner saying I felt good, and then I felt that it wasn't clear maybe to me why I did it, because no one was with me at that moment. But then so many things happened that I can trace it back to that moment. My start with this kind of path and this kind of feeling that it was a true action step that I was taking then. And then what I think about truth is that truth has a demonstrative power, that truth does not want to remain alone. And so sooner or later recognition from others will come. And sooner or later something in your past will also become clear if you take a personal action step that makes you feel good. Alpha went away.
Well, it sounds like you got recognition, a type of recognition when you taught about the composting with worms. There's direct feedback, direct recognition from the people learning from you, correct?
Well, yes and no, because the children, they were very happy, but I admit that it's difficult. For example, my original idea was that some parents would start doing that, or some teachers, school educators would say, oh, I want to do that for the school. And I realized that there are problems in doing that in a school, for example, because that kind of compost would be attractive for mice and rats. So my initial enthusiastic idea about being able to have it in a school would really not it didn't follow up, but nevertheless I do continue to share with this. This is a group that, as I was saying, we are watering plants that have been put to the ground from the city administrations, and I continue to do my workshops there, and I also have joined another group that does gardening, in the city gardening. So I do have, but a lot of my feeling is really feeling well with the plants and planting trees. And I did not have an idea when I started that in 2020 during the COVID pandemic that my compost would end up in that way. Yeah, I did it, but then I realized that I could put it to some use that was good for me and for the planet.
Mm. So there was an instinctual action on your part to do the composting with worms, and then it was later that there was an obvious use for that soil that you had created.
Exactly. I hadn't put the two things together. At that stage, the composting was to have something alive, and I could have used it for agriculture or for given to friends who do that kind of gardening. But I had some disappointing adventures in trying to offset my carbon footprint with people who do plant trees professionally, because I had bought some of, for my daughter's birthday, had put 10 trees. And when I went there in the place in Rome where they were supposed, where I was supposed to find them, I didn't see any. So I had really then the perception that I should do it myself.
Mm-hmm. So you attempted to pass that on to some others, and there was disappointing results. And so you brought it back to yourself and said, I have to do this myself. And it became more of a personal agency.
Yes, yes. And it's actually very, I say it in that workshop. It's because one of the use of doing worm composting is that okay, it's a way to regenerate the soil. That's one point. Second point is that you don't go to the garbage bin, but so you can also get a recognition from the town, which would be the third point, to pay less for your taxes because you're doing your home composting. But the fourth benefit of doing that is really emotional, how they say it. It's really feeling good about it. So it's a way to, actually take care of climate anxiety and climate doom and climate disappointment and climate depression. It is a very strong way to do therapy for me.
It's a kind of
because it has to do with my relation with the plants. It has no longer to do with, you know, paying someone who does the job.
And then it has not to do with your disappointment in other people's actions or lack of action.
On this, about not being disappointed by people to whom you give money in order to offset your personal carbon footprint, I want to give a strong indication, because the only international organization that is fit to do that has an international good reputation, is called Project Drawdown, and you see it here when I scroll the pages of their website. So what I actually do once a year when I calculate my carbon footprint is to donate a little bit, the amount that I calculate with the other calculator, with the calculator that I've shown you, which is about 50 euros. I donated to Project Drawdown because I know that they work globally, and they work also with Asia, with Africa, with India, and with the Global South. But to be completely honest with you, I do not always contribute and make a donation with Project Drawdown. Sometimes I do it with Greenpeace. Greenpeace Italy has climate litigation action against Eni. As you can see from this page, Eni is the main Italian gas provider, for natural gas. And together with another organization that is called Recommon, they have a campaign for false climate solutions. Now, why do I do this? Why do I also donate to Greenpeace? Most people would find this too alternatives, to be opposite alternatives, and that are a clash with each other. Now, I, as an individual, I do not want to commit myself to a narrative that sees only one side of the story. I want to see different faces, and I think I am both a consumer interested then in reducing my personal carbon footprint, and I am also a citizen, very, very upset with our governments and economic power, who have done so little in order to find just and affordable climate solutions in order to make our planet livable for all.
Manuela, I would just like to comment that in response to your worm composting, I'm a big fan. And during the pandemic, for a whole year, I did not use my toilet, and I composted my shit with the worms. And we have a water crisis in California a lot of the time, and my feeling is that shitting in our drinking water is not really ecologically sound activity, and so it's not probably something a lot of people are going to do anytime quickly to copy my action. But you know, that it's a mammalian instinctual way. I was very clear, you know, like, I don't have a lot of money, but what I do have is shit. And that shit can be turned into gold for growing cucumbers that are going to be like, this is your cucumber. I grew it with my own shit. You know, to me, all of these things with sustainable actions are obvious. What for me is less obvious and has been less obvious is how to develop the community connection and sangha and support enough that bridges that gap and gets through that barrier. To me, that's what I'm very curious about. Bridges the barrier so that we can have the support to do all the things and teach each other and blah, 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 and get past the problems and say, yes, there's rats, but we can, somebody else can make a cage and for the compost, and that works in that way. It's the community connection that leads to all of the ideas and action for me.
I think you have to work with schools, and a lot of the things I'm going to do next are in that direction, to really go to gardening places where they have school children coming in, and sooner or later I think a teacher will come and say, yeah, I want to do that.
I'm not sure if you, I had to leave the room for minutes before, so I'm sorry if I repeat something that you guys have said before. But regarding what Alfo reflected after your presentation, I agree with him, and this is something for maybe from our point of view. I understand that when you said that the global south we are not like, it's not mandatory for us to do this footprint. But my reflection is, how can we make the feeling awareness more expansive from the tools that we have, this group or people like us, the Sangha, the ones that had been through the moment of truth, right? My question is, how can we develop instead of a footprint, a net print? I don't know if that makes sense, like a network map, the registration of how many people is doing things well, how many people around the world are doing the right things, how many of you are, besides outside of this room, how many of us are all around the world. We are many, but my fantasy is plenty of us, we are not like very interested in how can I say, in like show off, you know, like make us like be very, because people like us, I believe, we are more interested in being in the real life with people around, with like connected to the earth, connected to the place we are around, and which is very good and nice. And the paradigm, it makes sense, that word, of consumism and capitalism, it's more, has better marketing, you know, like more a bigger sales department. So how can, I will say it like this, a bit a funny way, how can develop a massive sales department for feeling?